Hey you, what if I told you you're wasting your money? What if I told you you are eating marketing for breakfast? What if I told you you're a bit of a ship, let's face it? What is up everybody, welcome back to the headquarters. Right now there is a power outage because they're doing some work, so as you can see everything is dark. So let's use this opportunity here to have a bit of a chat, to have a bit of a talk about money and about marketing and about companies and all this stuff I'm talking about in games. But this time it's gonna be about gaming hardware companies. So let's talk a bit about that. Let's talk a bit about what do you actually need to enjoy a game. Are graphics important in a game? Yes, they are. You will hear many people say it's all about the gameplay and stuff. No, you need the graphics for immersion, and of course after a point you start demanding some things technologically. For example, now we have the technology to have almost photorealistic graphics, and that's the peak. That's where it should be, and that's all good. It's not necessary, but it's very important, it's very good, it's very pleasant, and it increases the immersion tremendously. It's very, very good to have good graphics, but where do you set the line? What if I have 1080p? What if I have 4K? And right now they're coming out with 8K. Can you believe this stuff? They're coming out with 8K. Can you imagine the amount of hardware power you're gonna need to have to run something at 8K? We're barely conquering 4K right now, and before 8K we were barely conquering 1080p. You wouldn't be able to run all games at 1080p 60 FPS back in the day where you had the 980 Ti's. Even in SLI you wouldn't be able to run a stable 60 FPS at 1080p in a game like GTA 5. So what does this tell you? That tells you that technology is constantly trying to run ahead of itself, and you have to pay for it. Of course, technological advancement is a good thing, right? Don't get me wrong, we need this stuff because actually development of technology goes along with healthcare, with all this stuff, exploration of other planets potentially that we're gonna need eventually, sustainable energy, all this stuff. You need technology for that. Of course, one could argue you don't need all this stuff here because there is a price to pay, and that price is the bad side of capitalism. That is that all those poor countries that either live in complete poverty or have to work for basically no money in factories like in China and stuff to make the cheap products happen. So you have to think about that for a second. And you have to think about that with everything, with the shoes you wear, with the car you drive, everything. You have to think about it. I'm all for shoes, I'm all for cars, I'm all for technology, I'm all for all this stuff. But you need to learn how to live in a more stoic manner. You need to hold back a bit, because I'm telling you, you're wasting your money and you're wasting your time. And your time is the most important thing that you have, but you're wasting the time trying to make more and more money in unsustainable ways, to invest on things you don't actually need. For example, let's make a simple argument. 1080p vs 4K. Is there a difference in quality? Yes, of course there is a difference in quality. But do you need 4K? Because the difference between a system that can run all games, even current games, at 1080p and 60 FPS at good settings, and a system that can do the same at 4K, completely different classes of systems. It's completely different. You're wasting all kinds of money. For example, look at my equipment right there. What do I have here? Is it because I'm broke? Partially, but not really. It's a choice. Could I invest more money there? Yes. Do I have to? No. It's not a good idea. I can invest money on other things. I can invest money when I have to go out. I have to go out, take a trip, maybe in nature. When I have to buy a motorcycle, buy a car, buy clothes, good shoes, all this stuff, all the nice stuff. That's useful, right? So think about it for a second. What are you doing investing all your money to get a slight bit of an edge? And you're gonna say, if you look them side by side, they make a difference. Yes, but that is a trap. Side by side comparison is not actually real, because you're gonna have one thing. That's what you care about. What am I looking at? Do I like what I'm looking at? Is it good enough for me? You have to think about it in such a way. So you have to adjust your priorities and your perception of things. You have to learn to appreciate the little things. For example, like I said, this system right here, do you know what it is? It's an i5 3570K. That's a 2012, I believe, or 2013 CPU. It's very old. For technology standards, it's very old. But up until a few years ago, CPUs were not much better. You could get the best i5, it couldn't be much better than this one. you know, because it's very slow, the development. What they have in the graphics card department right now, have a 970. You have to think about it. They have the best value for money card that used to be the best value for money card so many years ago when it came out, and I still have it. That means this card is basically costing me no money right now. It was so cheap to get, and I got it used too. Always use the used market. I'm not sure what it's like in your country. In our country, we do have, in Greece right here, we do have a very nice site, very nice technology site with like, you have like seller reviews and all this stuff. So you know pretty much what you're getting yourself into, and you know you can buy something pretty reliably. So think about this for a second and actually consider why do you need to have like a 380 right now, like a 3080 or a 2080, all this stuff. You don't need to have this stuff. You need this stuff if you want to run it at 4K, but you're gonna be like, bro, it's eye candy though, it's so good. Listen, I know it's good, I know it's better, but this again, it's a side-by-side comparison. If you only have it by yourself, and I'm gonna give you, it's not gonna be the same. I'm gonna give you an example, right? I used to have, first of all, when it comes to graphics card, I went all the way up to like 980 Ti or a 1070. I got both. 980 Ti was burning too much electricity. I was like making the power supply go crazy with the fan, so it was very noisy. So I just stopped this, and I got a 1070 eventually. I got all those cards used, of course, because graphics cards, there is no reason to buy a graphics card new unless it has been mined. It has been used for mining. It's gonna be exactly the same. It doesn't matter who has a graphics card. It's gonna be exactly the same. They're gonna have their card. They're gonna be in a computer. They're gonna be running pretty much similar temperatures, unless the guy is crazy. And it's like, because like modern cases, they have plenty of good airflow. They have air filters. So against the guy, unless the guy is doing something crazy and like using like these super high temperatures, or he's trying like all kinds of crazy overclocking and stuff. What is the percentage of people doing this stuff? I know at least in my country, not many people do this stuff. So I know I can just buy a used graphics card. It's gonna be the same thing as buying it new, basically. Of course, it's not gonna be precisely the same, but it's gonna be pretty damn close, because the sellers here, many of them know what they're doing. So they're gonna give you the card with the box. As you can see, I have the box with like the whole packaging. It's gonna be exactly the same experience. Slightly different, of course, but you can also get it in warranty. Check this out, you can just get it in warranty. You ask for the receipt. Like when I got this one, it still had a warranty. That's what I always do. I buy graphics cards that have a warranty, so I don't care. If it breaks down, I'm gonna get it to the dealer. You'll be like, what if he abused the card and it's gonna break down after 5 years? Listen, man, after 5 years, it's an irrelevant purchase. We're talking about an object that costs like 100 something euros right now. Maybe even cheaper at this point. Especially the 970 should be pretty cheap. We're talking about very, very cheap hardware here. And guess what? If you buy it new, you're already paying a massive premium. Just in case the other card eventually, after many years, breaks down. That makes no sense. You're wasting your money. It's totally a waste of money. So just be a little careful, get a used card or whatever. So I just sold those cards. I went back to the 970 because you know what? What was the difference? Yes, I had slightly better the graphics, but still, like I play like a game like Grand Theft Auto 5, right now it looks gorgeous on a 970. On a 970 with an i5, and an i5 that's getting old right now, or maybe got old years ago, I can play at 1080p at 60 frames per second at pretty good settings. It looks amazing. And I can do this with all games. I can play fucking Modern Warfare, this and that. They look fine. They look fine. Like, okay, maybe Modern Warfare is it's a bit weird, it's not very well optimized. But for the most part, and also, the new games are not very good anymore. The games you're getting are not like to die for. You will get bored. They're like fast consumption games. They're not meant to last like decades. Like games like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, like the multiplayer version. Like, you don't really get those games anymore. Most of the time, the games you're still playing are old franchises. Like people like if you see like things like CS:GO and like all the MMOs and like WoW, all these games. Those are the long-lasting games, but those are old franchises. Right now, you don't get new ones. Okay, you're gonna get some Assassin's Creed games. They're gonna have amazing graphics, but guess what? Odyssey looks like it's like literally like spectacular. I used to like take videos of it from the screen and post them on Instagram where nobody cares about games. But I was like, look how good this looks. And I was running it with an i5 and an i70. What's the difference though? I had to adjust the resolution. I was running this at 1080p. If I wanted 4K, obviously I wouldn't be able to run it. But I don't need 4K. It looks amazing on 1080p. And another example, I used to have a monitor 144 Hz. Like this is like extreme smoothness. You have to understand, it's very, very smooth, right? So I went up from 60 FPS. Because to me 60 FPS was smooth before I got this monitor. So like ultras, like it was like perfect. I didn't need anything else. Like you can argue maybe in shooters, but no, it was perfect for me. Like especially in action adventure games like Grand Theft Auto, it was amazing. So I was running this thing, this monitor here, and everything became like super smooth. I was like, oh, okay, this is amazing. So I but the thing is, the image quality wasn't very good. It was like a TN panel, the colors got a bit off, it was a bit gray and like faded out. I tried so many things, I couldn't get it to work the way I wanted it to do. And it was mega expensive, right? So, and I had to sell a perfect monitor. It was like the same with this one, like a Samsung monitor with the PLS technology, which is similar to like IPS from LG. But guess what? Guess what happens in this case? I lost so much image quality that I had to compensate by increasing the settings. At the same time, I wanted to have more FPS, so I had to I needed more power. So I needed so much power to get an experience that was similar to the experience I had before. Why? Because yes, it was smoother, but to get it smoother, I had to like waste more resources and more power. I needed more power from the graphics card, and at the same time, to get a better image quality because the monitor wasn't good enough, I had to increase the settings. So again, for a similar experience, just a bit smoother, I had to use like a 1070 or something, which is like almost twice as powerful as this one. So actually just try to comprehend the amount of resources required just to get a slightly better experience. So what do? I finally after years I was like putting on the NUD and I was like removing it and stuff. I wasn't sure if I should give away the 144 Hz. But finally I pulled the trigger. I was like, fuck this, and I need the money for something else as well. So I was like, fuck it, I sold that and I got a monitor that was basically the same as the previous one, but I got it used, so it was really cheap, right? So I got like for like 70 euros or whatever. So I go in there, and what do I notice? The image quality is so much better, and just like enjoying the shit out of that. I was like, look at this, and that was like at almost like half the settings of the previous monitor and card setup, right? At almost half the settings I was having the same quality, but I noticed a problem. 60 FPS. It used to be like perfectly smooth for me, like perfection. I was like so happy. I was like, I could feel like a smooth. I was like, oh my god, the game is perfect right now, running at 60 FPS. But guess what I did? I went back to 60 FPS for 144. I could see the freaking cursor on the desktop. I was like, this is slow. Why is it moving? I thought like everything was broken or something. I was like, this is not normal. So what happened is, I basically paid money to increase my own standards. Do you understand that? I'm paying these people to increase my standards, so then I need to keep paying them. Because my standards are too high at this point, I cannot like game at anything less anymore. There is an issue there, you have to understand. You're not supposed to increase your requirements for no reason. This is important stuff. You need, like, money is important. Experiences are important. They're more important than objects. Objects are amazing. I'm into all kinds of hobbies. I'm like waiting right now for like RC cars and stuff. You can see in the back here what's going on. I love objects, but the objects are about the experience. You don't need the premium. You don't need it. You think you need it. You think you want it. You don't need it though. And if you make this effort to be content with what you have, and to do that, you have to ignore the marketing, because the marketing is coming your way from all sides. You see Nvidia releasing new cards. Meanwhile, people are buying like 3090s and they run and they have like stuttering issues and stuff. This is a $2,000 card and it's having issues. Imagine paying $2,000 for a freaking card, man. And it's having issues. This is insanity. This is not supposed to happen. So, again, please do rethink your priorities. Think about what you're doing. Do yourself a favor. Go back. 1080p. It's perfectly fine, and fine settings is amazing. But you don't need much power to run it. It's perfect. Just go back. 1080p, 60 FPS, good settings. Amazing. You don't have to pay all this money for no reason. It is that simple. You're wasting your money. So take a step back. Buy some used hardware. Figure it out. Of course, if you have money, you don't need this advice. Obviously, if you're like swimming in money, whatever. But many people will sacrifice other things for this stuff, and it's just not worth it. It's just your standards being higher for no reason. You will enjoy Grand Theft Auto 5 the same if it's at 1080p or at 4K. It's gonna be exactly the same, I promise you. Eventually, once you get used to it, it's gonna be exactly the same. But it has so many other issues going on with the gameplay itself. That's where you have the problem. That's where the problems are in the gameplay and this stuff. The graphics are fine at this point. They're way too good. The graphics are amazing at this point. You don't need this stuff. You don't need freaking ray tracing and stuff. You don't need that. Yeah, it looks amazing, but it consumes like freaking 30% of the power. Like, that's all good. If you have the money, of course, invest it. If it's like your only hobby, of course, invest it. But if you're looking to balance things out in your life, you don't need this stuff. Like I'm telling you, you don't need, like, guaranteed. You just increase your own standards. There's no reason to do that. So get a nice SSD in there. Be smart about it. Use the RAID 0. Do you know what I'm doing? Okay, another thing. Do you know what I'm doing? People are going out, buying 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte SSDs that are extremely expensive, right? Even now, they're extremely expensive. Of course, they're getting cheaper, but they're so expensive. They're buying this stuff because they want space for them, for the freaking games. Right now, Modern Warfare is taking up like 240 gigs or something. It's like crazy huge. Do you know what I'm doing? I have a motherboard. I invested in a slightly, like, it was like 100 something euros when I got it. 110 maybe. Maybe 130, something like that. It wasn't like super expensive or anything. It's just a decent motherboard. But it had SLI, if I needed to like SLI 2 cards, but I don't need to do that right now because I can just sell 1 card. I don't need to keep it and like do all this huge power consumption issues and the stuttering, all this stuff. I don't need this stuff, so I don't need SLI, but it was an investment, and also RAID. So I got RAID 0. Do you know what I have? Some person is gonna go out there and buy like 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes disk. Of course, they're gonna buy 1 terabyte instead of 2, or maybe 512 because they don't have the money to buy the other stuff because it's so expensive. But I'm sitting right here, and I have basically a 2 terabyte disk that runs at speeds 2 times as fast as like a regular hard drive. But it's made of hard drives because it's RAID 0 with 2 hard drives, 1 terabyte Western Digital Blues. Really cheap. I got them used. Whatever. I paid like what, like 50 euros for both of them or something. It came out to something like that. And I have 2 terabytes where I can store my games. Like at the same time I store my recordings. At the same time I store like those videos. Like huge data, and they're super fast. Like in games, the difference from an SSD is very little. I have paid 1/4 of the price. Can you comprehend that? Just because I had the foresight to just get a motherboard that supports the RAID. I was like, RAID? That's very cool. Let's do some RAID. So if you have a motherboard that can do RAID 0, do what I did. Get 2 identical disks, 1 terabyte each or whatever. They're gonna be super fast and you're gonna have so much space. So maybe I'll make some more videos like that, but I hope you get the point. Stop wasting money. You don't need all this stuff. You don't need all this stuff. It's that simple. I hope you gained something from this video. Thank you very much for watching. Stop wasting your money. See you.